In case you've never heard it before, I am pleased to introduce you to a group called Baby Metal. This is exactly what it looks like. It's J-pop with a surprising amount of metal influence, and this is a group that's almost inexplicable, but is surprisingly popular. Vince Neilstein from MetalSucks.net actually came up with an article a few days ago called 12 Reasons Baby Metal is the Best Thing to Happen to Metal in the Past Decade. And the number one reason why Baby Metal was great, according to this website, they're different. He even goes on to say, in my opinion, one of the greatest sentences describing metal today. For a genre that prides itself on being made by and for outsiders, metalheads are an extremely conservative bunch that are incredibly averse to change. This was actually kind of surprising to find here because the other co-founder of Metal Sucks, Axl Rosenberg, he put out an article a few years ago called, "Ladies and Gentlemen, Call Off the Search. We have found the worst band in metal today." And that article was talking about this group, Canto. You might have heard me talk about Canto before in the past. I would consider myself a fan. But there's a lot of people who think this group, which, by the way, is signed to Napalm Records, cannot possibly be considered metal. And here's the main reason why. Canto is the world's first and most popular acapella metal group. Now, you know what acapella is, you know what it typically sounds like. Hell, you've probably seen Pitch Perfect. I didn't care for it. But aside from the random video on the internet, it's not something you see embraced by the world of heavy metal. And then there's these guys. Canto is a group from Hamburg, Germany with 6 members. A drummer, 5 singers, and that's it. Yeah, all the sounds you hear in these songs are performed with the singers providing the rhythm sections, riffs, hell, even the solos. No keyboards, no guitars, no bass, and it's ridiculously cheesy. And it's weird. And a lot of people, mostly metal purists, say that it's too extreme of a concept to be considered metal. In that Metal Sucks article, which was just one of a few jabs that the site's made on the band, Rosenberg says that the members deserve to be beaten up, and if you know me or have seen my ICP video, you know how I feel about people who say shit like that. He also says the one thing that's been this band's roadblock since its inception: can you, in all honesty, call something like Canto a metal band? Or is it just an unusual avant-garde concept piece? But looking at it logically, we need to ask ourselves a few questions. Number one, can you even call Canto a band? Acapella groups aren't called bands for good reason. You need an instrument or two to be considered a band, don't you? This isn't like me, but I'm going the anal retentive route here. Webster defines a band as a group of musicians organized for ensemble playing. Singers are musicians. And these singers mostly come from other projects. It's not like this was their dream to begin with. Even though that would be really funny. See, Inga Scharf was the singer in the group Fading Starlight, a few of which's songs have been covered into a cappella versions for Canto. The drummer Bastian has a piano band called In Legend, and one of the lead rhythm singers, Stefan Schmidt, was the driving force behind Heavitar, which had an album out last year. The lead singer, on the other hand, I don't know where they got him from. Between albums, it looks like they just keep him in a box behind the studio and feed him unbaptized babies covered in razor blades. But they're all musicians in their own right, and they do everything you'd expect a full-fledged band to do. They have 5 albums out to date. They tour constantly, and they play festivals throughout Europe. One of which being Viking, for God's sakes. One for all! And they put out music videos. Dear God, do they put out music videos. They've done at least 2 for every album they put out, and pretty much all of them are mozzarella-covered balls of awesomeness. But we'll get into some of those in a bit. For now, let's look at question number 2. Is Canto metal? Can you have a band be metal without having instruments? This is where a ton of critics have raised the battle flag against these guys, especially in a lot of comment sections and forums, most of which I have said over and over again.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
I'm one of those people who hates the expressions real metal, true metal, brutal, mall metal, whatever. Stuff that's used to specifically put bands on pedestals above others, and it's just ridiculous. If it's heavy enough, just call it metal. Just because you don't like something doesn't mean you can't call it metal. That being said, this is a group that's heavily ingrained in heavy metal culture. They're currently signed to a major metal record label, Napalm Records. They've performed guest vocals for acts like Blind Guardian and Tarja, and like I said, we take a look at some of those music videos. Look at these right now and tell me that they are not directly lifted from power metal.
We are marching on, standing side by side, and we'll carry on.
You can't look at these videos without knowing that they're influenced by nothing but power metal, pop culture, and pure unfiltered nerdiness. The last video they put out was entirely about a mad scientist who steals the guitars from famous bands around the world because science, I guess. Other videos have featured footage from Ruins of Magic, fan contributions, and a special green screen appearance by Joachim Broden. Which reminds me, a lot of their songs have featured some pretty prominent figures in power metal. Van Canto's albums have had guest appearances from members of Sabaton, Sonata Arctica, Gravedigger, and a few more. They even introduced Gravedigger's song Rebellion at Viking one year for the band's anniversary show. I can't stress this enough. They've played Viking! I kind of loop them in the same category as Apocalyptica. It's not metal in the traditional sense, but you can't think Apocalyptica without thinking metal. There's not a lot of other cellist groups that have been on the 70,000 Tons of Metal tour. It's not about who's playing or how much of each instrument you have. It's the mentality of how the music is played. I mean, you can play a John Mayer song on a dime from hell. It does not make it metal. And if my thoughts mean anything, Van Canto's sound is at least heavy enough to be considered metal in pretty much every definition. The style's definitely aggressive enough, the voices are powerful in every aspect, and the harmonies are absolutely mesmerizing sometimes. Not only that, but there's actually a few times listening to it that you will completely forget that this is an a cappella group. I've had to sit people down and explain to them that the solo in the cover of Wishmaster is nothing but a guy making weird noises into a distorted mic. I've had to show people the video for Cellar of Souls to convince them that all the sounds in the chorus were done by vocalists. So, if you can't say that it's very metal, at least you could say it's metal enough. If A Day to Remember can be considered metal, so can Van Canto. And I'm not just saying that because there is also an a cappella breakdown in Downfall of Us All. But now we've come to the final and most important question. Is Van Canto any good? It's got novelty value for sure, and it's worth a laugh every now and then, but is the musicianship worth more than a couple of quick smiles? Let me put it this way. If you're solely into one subgenre of heavy metal and it involves putting on corpse paint and knowing the lyrics to at least 10 Behemoth songs, you're probably not going to love this. This one's got its roots mostly in power metal, especially with bands like Manowar and Gravedigger, who they've covered on a few occasions, but when you look at the songs, especially the original material that they've come up with, they really do put their all into everything, and I do say, their original material is very good.
Don't you hear my call, violent tongue? Yes, I can be heard. My voice is strong, feels the world around and sing and burn. Was there what has been? Break the silence, tell me about what you hold inside. All that I ever heard from
Stefan Schmidt, who's the co-founder, I believe, he makes most of the compositions, and most of them sound pretty awesome. Inga's voice has a phenomenal range, and she can be everything from a commanding leading presence to a beautiful backdrop. And Sly...
You won't teach me how to write a song. Power deep within.
I just want to say nice things about him so he doesn't hurt me. So once you get past the silliness of the premise that it's a metal band without metal instruments, you might find that some of the stuff is really well written and downright impressive. Are they consistently excellent? No. I think some of their weakest material is actually from their first and last albums. While I can forgive most of the material on their debut, A Storm to Come, mostly because I think they were trying to find their own voice. Pun! There's not a lot of excuses I can make for the latest release, Dawn of the Brave. In addition to the production levels sounding like they took a step backwards, the material's just not as catchy or memorable as the stuff from Break the Silence, which I still consider their best album. I found the whole thing completely underwhelming, from the originals, which don't have nearly the same punch and cohesive harmony as previous releases, to the covers, which I had such high hopes for. If you know me, I like stupid stuff, so if you promise me that you're going to be an acapella metal group doing a cover of Holding Out for a Hero, Paranoid, The Final Countdown, and not deliver on the awesome, it is nothing but a total letdown.
Will things ever be the same again? It's the final countdown.
I am depressed.
What I think might have actually happened here is that Schmidt came up with some half-decent songs and then said, screw it, let's try it with instruments instead, and then he formed Hevitar, which, that whole album just got less and less interesting every time I heard it. But regardless, they do have some absolute gems. I love almost every song off Tribe of Force. Hero has some of the best metal covers I've ever listened to, and I still find myself listening to this group all the time, even when I'm not watching the YouTube videos for the laugh factor. So, if you ask me, I would say that they're good. They are a good metal band. There's a reviewer on Blip that I think everyone should check out. His name is Happy Viking, and his main philosophy is that metal is for everyone who welcomes it, and nothing sums up that mentality more than Van Canto. Think about every car trip you've ever had with anyone who listens to metal. If you put on Master of Puppets and you're waiting for the lyrics to come in, it takes an eternity unless you mimic some of it yourself. Hell, you want a more practical example? Watch Rock in Rio. Did everyone just sit there patiently waiting for Bruce to go into his whole spiel, or did they decide to turn the opening to Fear of the Dark into one of the best audience participation segments in history? I'd like to think that everyone, at least once, who listens to metal has let out a couple of sounds that exemplify Van Canto's downright insane mantra. And this type of fun, happy mentality exists in the minds and hearts of every single metal fan, band, industry professional, and the like. Van Canto is a living, breathing example of what it is to be a metal fan in its purest form. And when it comes to whether or not you can personally consider a group metal, despite not having two guitars to rub together, literally, I don't give a crap. I'm enjoying it, and I can't wait to hear the next completely batshit idea of a music project that people can come up with.
Sing to spare your life.
Do you disagree with me? Agree with me? Think I don't know what the hell I'm talking about and should get back to working on my full album reviews? Let me know in the comments or by email directly, and I'll see you guys next time. Rockataka, motherfuckers.